Now, just to be clear, you didn't do it.
We know who did it, Steve. We know. And we know who spearheaded this cover-up. You all know.
Yes, we do.
If John was beaten up and attacked in that house, who did it?
We don't know.
We don't know.
We don't know. And it's not for us to know. Somebody other than Karen is responsible for that, for the killing of John.
You are listening to the Roberta Glass True Crime Report, putting the true back in true crime. From New York City, Roberta Glass is now on the record.
Okay, how is everybody? Hello, Maestro. Hello, Dean Walker. Hello, Angela. Hello, Fan. I'm glad you made it too, Fan. Hello, Sandy. Hello, Markar. Hello, Lucy. Yay! So glad someone's excited. Wow. So let's get up to date with what's new with Karen Read first, and then we'll get into the topic of today's episode, which is Karen Read's very possible affair. Did it happen after she ran over John O'Keefe with her large SUV, and all the details of it? And really, it's about how this man, whether she had a relationship with him or not, and his daughter really became the gasoline or the fuel for Aidan Turtleboy Kearney to write his blogs. And they really became accomplices to Karen Read. So we're going to talk about that. But before we do, just a few things that I want to go over. One is, so I've mentioned this a lot. If you haven't been listening, if you just, Rose, you're ahead of me. If you haven't been listening to my show, I've about had it with Karen Read's lying, criminal, lowlife, disgusting human beings, well, criminal lawyers, the most criminal, not just criminally minded, criminal in behavior lawyers. And Judge Kearney is just absolute okaying of it and kowtowing to them and treating them, she's just, speaking of accomplices, I mean, she's an accomplice in this. She's a fraudster judge herself. She knows this score, and she loves it. She loves to watch killers and predators get away with their crime, and she's going to help them out. So last time, she ruled that because there's no evidence of any third-party culprit in this case, and that's one of the pillars of our justice system, is that you need evidentiary support for the claims that you make. Not so with Karen Read. She can just make things up, leak it to Aidan Kearney, and then her lawyers can say in court that it's been reported as something it really can't do. There's like a million scams and cons by these low-life defense lawyers in this case, and it's just getting too much to watch. So another one of their tactics was to hide discovery, not give discovery over to the Commonwealth so they could sandbag them in trial. Hank Brennan, who's a defense lawyer himself, who knows all of these tricks, said this was the number one thing that he was most worried about, was the defense was going to say, hey, you know what, we just can't. And we can't hand over the ARCA discovery because they're federal witnesses and we're not allowed to talk to them. We're putting up people on the stand. We have no idea what they're going to say. That's what they did last time. Then we had a pointless voir dire because no one knows the right questions to ask. It's just basically pointless. Born and raised in a briar patch. Does anybody know that fable? That's what it's like for these lawyers. Like, oh, not a voir dire. Don't tell me we're going to have a voir dire the day before these witnesses testify. So it turns out Hank Brennan outed. And it's so interesting to me that the Free Karen Read people can't see it. Hank Brennan outed these ARCA witnesses in front of their faces. Exactly what they were about. Hired guns by the defense. One of Daniel Wolf, one of the ARCA witnesses, his wife joined the Free Karen Read Facebook group the minute after he testified, pretty much. The day he testified or the day after he testified, something to that effect. There's a million connections between these ARCA witnesses not being unbiased witnesses, and really that being, and what this shows also so clearly is that the federal investigation was a favor for Yannetti or Karen Read. We don't really know, but we do know that Aidan Kearney was saying to Lindsay Catani, his girlfriend at the time, Josh Levy, the attorney general, doesn't want it known that we're working with Karen Read's attorneys. So they hire people that are going to be favorable to Karen Read. Everybody knows the score. And that really hasn't been exposed. So back to the discovery. So what happened then was that Hank Brennan's been asking for discovery and they've been hiding it, saying we don't have it. It looks like they're going to have the ARCA witnesses do more testing, and they say, well, we just haven't gotten it back. We can't hand it over. And maybe we'll have another pointless voir dire as quote unquote punishment. So Hank Brennan said, Judge Kearney said, you can't open on third party culprit, meaning you can't name anyone in your opening statement defense about third party culprit. You can't name Brian Albert, Jen McCabe, etc., Chloe the dog in your opening statement. Yannetti gets up there. His first line is Karen Read was framed. And then he goes to, bring up a whole bunch of conspiracy theories with no evidentiary support. And nothing happened. I mean, it's considered very rude to object in someone's opening statement. But that was so out of line. So Hank Brennan, again, begging for help from Judge Kearney to just do her job. Just please do your job, Judge Kearney. Please keep the courtroom at least basically fair. Basically fair. Has put in a motion saying that they can't open on third party. Like there will be no mention of anyone else. And Judge Kearney has, so let's just take a look at it together. The Commonwealth moves for an order that the defense counsel refrain from claiming in their opening statement that any of the victim's injuries were caused by any person or animal that was inside the home of 34 Fairview Road. Alan Jackson's doing the opening, but basically Hank Brennan saying, if I hear him opening on third party culprit evidence, there's going to be an objection. It will be rude and I will do it. Based on the defense's request to show the abrasions to the victim's arm in opening statement, something that the O'Keefe family finds offensive, and they know the O'Keefe family is going to be at the trial. So Karen Read, that's a little extra boost to Karen Read. She can re-victimize the O'Keefe family in her opening statement. The Commonwealth notes that the court has ruled the defense is precluded from mentioning any reference to third-party culprit claims trying to establish a viable test supported by admissible evidence, and any mention of third-party culprits relative to the abrasions would be improper. So basically, Hank Brennan is now having to be his own judge. This is like wildness going on here. This judge is so poor, and I think poor on purpose. She likes to put her thumb on the scale. She likes to make things easy for the defense. And I wonder if, it was very convenient for I think when things started to fall apart for the defense, when the ARCA witnesses got exposed, they started talking about Judge Kearney being so corrupt and so terrible. So that if Karen Read gets convicted of something, even some small charge, they can say it was the judge's fault. But it's also very helpful to Karen Read to hide the obvious bias this judge has, and collusion and symbiotic relationship she has with the defense. I mean, she knew. She was like, you were going to put 3 people up that you never talked to before. You know how unwise that would be of a defense attorney to put 3 expert witnesses up on the stand. They have no idea what they're going to say. Turns out they were talking to them, scripting their testimony. Wild. Then here's another great Judge Kearney ruling. So how is this going to help Hank Brennan? Okay. So they were ordered to hand over any discovery concerning the ARCA witnesses by April 18th. Any outstanding discovery listed under 1, 2, and 3 of the Commonwealth's motion. In addition, by April 18th at 8:50, the defense must disclose to the Commonwealth any oral presentations or agreements. And then it goes, this is the worst ruling ever. It is furthered, that's fair. It's not fair. It's too little, too late. But it is further ordered that by April 21st, 2025, at 12 p.m., the defendant must disclose to the Commonwealth any testing underway. Not what they're going to say, not what they're going to testify to, just what like the general idea of what they're going to do. Requested or contemplated, as to testing underway, requested or contemplated, that is not completed, so that they can sandbag them. I mean, they better have it. So basically that puts the Commonwealth in a position where they're like, have to be a psychic. So they're doing this kind of testing. Well, what can we gather? We won't know what they're going to conclude, but what do we think that they might conclude from this kind of testing? And they have to ask their experts. I mean, it's just absurd. Great. Also, in other news, does anybody remember this? JLR investigates, who has his own criminal. This was one of the highlights from last trial. Karen Read being treated like a rock star, a celebrity, royalty by our media. Not unusual, as killers and the media talk about symbiotic relationship. The media loves to report on killers, loves to treat them well. Anyway, he came to the court and said, how does it feel to be known as a cop killer, Karen? Does anybody remember this video?
Spend the rest of your life in prison, ain't you, Karen? Yeah, you are, Karen. Karen, you are, aren't you? Psycho. Hey! Karen, you're gonna spend the rest of your life in prison. Right, Karen? How does it feel to be known as a cop killer, Karen? How does it feel to be known as a cop killer, Karen? How does it feel to be known as a cop cop killer, Karen. How does it go?
You know, she's incapable of feeling any shame, but boy, did it feel good to have someone voice what we're all thinking. Like, is someone going to get real? You know what I mean? Is someone going to get real? With Karen Read and all her sycophants are protecting her, which is such a common thing in these cases that I talk about. These killers always do very little for everything. Let me see. One other thing I wanted to show you. Let me find it. Hold on one second. My apologies. I thought I had bookmarked it. Apparently, I did not. Okay, here we go. This is an old video, but I thought it was appropriate because Karen Read's statements are coming into this case. And here's what she's has to contend with. Let's take a look. This is Lydia Rodart Quayle's video on X. We tell lies when we are afraid of what we don't know, afraid of what others will think. Wait, hold on. Let me read this out so people who are listening on podcast can hear. Afraid of what others will think, afraid of what will be found out about us. But every time we tell a lie, the thing that we fear grows stronger. Tad Williams said that.
John O'Keefe was murdered, no question. He died at the hands of another person. There are people that know exactly what happened to John O'Keefe, and they aren't talking. If it walks like a duck and talks like a duck, it's a duck. This is Occam's razor. The simplest answer is usually the right one.
Okay, can someone... This is Occam's razor. That is not what Occam's razor is. Occam's razor is when you have two equally good theories. You pick the simplest one. So, first of all, Karen Read's theory that John O'Keefe was beaten up, attacked by a dog, and then killed in front of 8 witnesses, and then thrown out into the front lawn, who would hide the body to die, is absurd. Rather than she backed into him, which matches up with her car data, strangely, and matches up with her own statements. So for him to say that his theory is the simplest is just some majorly gaslighting going on there.
I got there a little after 9. And he gave me a hug.
Would you say that you were angry with John that night?
Yes.
Is it possible that that anger sent you into a fit of rage, coupled with the fact that he apparently had wanted to break up or insinuated that?
He never insinuated that he wanted to break up.
So these are the text messages, and these are the same text messages where they talk about the plumber. She can't come out. And all through the day, she's call me. I can't call you. I'm doing this. I can't do. She's calling him constantly, never giving him a minute's peace. Can you please admit your head is out of the game with us? Karen Read says. John O'Keefe says, sick of always arguing and fighting. It's been weekly for several months now. Remember Karen Read's parents said everything was so great between them? So yeah, I'm not as quick to jump back into being lovey-dovey as you, apparently. And this will come in further into today's episode with Karina Kalkith's testimony. She echoes those same words. O'Keefe says, oh my God, stop calling. Karen Reed says, then why would you start with me this morning? Karen Reed says, you started a number of fights from your end. O'Keefe says, I've explained it a few times already, not doing it again. Karen Reed, so you're not into this anymore. John O'Keefe, not into fighting all the time, correct. Karen Reed, if you tell me you're interested in someone else, you will never hear from me again. You can have all the space in the world. Then stop starting with me, Karen Reed says. So O'Keefe says, I'm not answering. Stop calling. Karen Reed says, can you please answer after how you treated me earlier? See, it's always how John O'Keefe acts, never how she acts. She acts perfectly. John O'Keefe says, Kaylee, or Kay is right here, his niece. Karen Reed says, you started a rager with me out of nowhere and then tell me you're sick of fighting with me? Karen Reed says, I'm going to grab a drink in a bit. Karen Reed, 2:38. I mean, these are all minutes apart. Sometimes not even minutes apart. Sometimes one after the other. So I'm not answering. Stop calling. Can you please answer after how you treated me earlier? And then Karen Reed says, can you please answer? John O'Keefe says, no, Karen, not sure why you need to announce that you're grabbing a drink, but have fun. Reed says, seeing if you want to meet me later, can you call me, please? Have to take them to the doctor that he has practice. Yeah, 5 minutes. My father just walked in. Okay, can you please call me for 2 minutes? You just see how
there's
Karen
innuendo
Reed,
here.
Desperate to be the number one person and just control every minute of his existence.
A marriage?
He made it clear he was never breaking up with me. Doesn't that sound realistic? Doesn't that sound to everybody who's ever been in a relationship before? Doesn't that sound, I'm never breaking up with you, ever. Not never. Then she goes back, not never. He didn't mean never. He just meant that I'm the best person. How do I get into this interview that I'm the best person ever? How do I squeeze in my narcissism into this interview? And these psychopaths always have minions and always have supporters. And the more dangerous and deranged they are, the bigger and more the supporters. I mean, Karen Reed is a dangerous woman. It's unusual. Women don't offend at the rate that men do. But not unusual. We have a lot of psychopaths. Not unusual in this country.
No.
Did you want that?
I would have considered it strongly for John, but it's not ever been something that I've aspired to. I have been angry with John. I was angry with him that night, but being angry with someone and being angry with them and wanting to physically hurt them with a 6,000 pound piece of machinery is another hemisphere of intention.
John, I'm here with
Because she feels that she's the smartest one in the room and she's going to get away with it. You know, I've heard, who was it that said that I don't think, was it Brendan Kane who said at one point in one interview, I didn't think that Karen Reed would risk everything. They're not thinking critically. They think they're going to get away with it. At the time, the anger is there and it must be expressed. And her power over John O'Keefe, it's the ultimate act of power. I decide who lives and dies. I decide who leaves me. Gets expressed. They're not thinking about their job. They're thinking they're going to get away with it. They don't care. They care so little. They care so little about human life. They care so little about others. They don't matter. The consequences don't matter to these people. It's not rational, reasonable. They're not making, I think people think like killers are making a to-do list, like pros, like not a list, like pros and cons. Well, it might interfere with my job at Bentley. Con, put that in the con list. It's not a reasonable, rational act. I mean, if you gave me 100 reasons why Karen Read ran over John O'Keefe, none of them would be good enough for me to see it as a reasonable, rational act. And the ripples of this kind of crime go so far, meaning it not just affects the O'Keefe family, it affects his niece and nephew. They've been sentenced to a life sentence of grief, his friends, anyone that he worked with. So it's not just a crime on John O'Keefe, it's not just ending John O'Keefe's life. It's the whole whirlwind of grief that you send out into the community that really never heals.
Look, you kid, you're using me right now. You're a loser. Pervert. You're a loser. Yourself.
And do you and John have a conversation about what's going to happen?
I said, go check and let me know, and I'll follow you behind. So I pull at the foot of the driveway. It's snowing. John has no coat on. It's windy. So I drop him off. He goes up the driveway and approaches the side door. And as I see him approach the door, I look down at my phone. I hadn't been on my phone the entire night. I cue up a song to play on my Bluetooth, and I just start browsing through, missed text messages and a couple emails. And I probably waited about a full minute, and I look back at the door. I would have expected him to be either walking back to me or calling me that, yeah, we're here.
Karen says after about 10 minutes of waiting in her car, she became irritated that John O'Keefe still hadn't gotten in touch with her. And so she decided to leave and drive back.
Okay, this is one of these things. She says the house, another interview, she says the house didn't look inviting. And I've said before, what was she expecting? Balloons and streamers. Welcome, Karen. How does a house look inviting? The house now doesn't look like it was busting with people. Was she expecting a frat party? Does anybody remember Jen McCabe's testimony? You're coming with me. But she knew she was going to an, they're all going home together, to this house together. It didn't look like it was busting. I mean, Karen Read's done her best to make it sound like this was some kind of thin, party of cops, wild cop party, fight club. It was just a way to keep the conversation going. Right. Like Karen Read needs an invitation. She's shy. She needs an extra invitation than the one she got when Jen McCabe grabbed her by the arm and said, "You're coming with street." There we have the psychopathic stutter there. Slow rolled it off the street.
Possible that you might have hit him unwittingly in your admittedly very large SUV.
No, not possible.
Right. I didn't think he could have slept at a neighbor's house. All right. Enough of lying, Karen. But we may come back to the rest of this video. But just a little bit of what's coming into trial. Now let's all of Karen Read's contradictory statements. And they're coming into opening statements too. Love to know which ones they're using. If the whole I will be shocked if Hank Brennan doesn't use either Jen McCabes going down or I'm going down. I'll be shocked if he doesn't use that. To me, if the Karen Read's Innocence Fraud campaign, witness harassment campaign comes in, Hank Brennan's got to use that. That explains it all. I mean, that is the most candid expression. I'm not going down for my own behavior. Jen McCabe's going down. I'd rather, strangely, me who cares so much about innocent people being wrongfully accused and wrongfully convicted, and I want to give my money to the New England Innocence Project. That's where the fund goes, the for-profit fund or whatever. It's not non-for-profit fund that Alan Jackson manages for Karen Read. They say any extras will be given to the fraud organization. It's my opinion. The New England Innocence Project. Getting out one guilty criminal. Karen Read wants the money to go to help get out other guilty criminals and get off other guilty criminals using the same kind of fraud techniques used in this case. But I don't think any money will be given. I think it's all going to her and her Botox shots, fillers, etc. Nights at the Omni Hotel with Alan Jackson. So let's look at, this is from Innocence Fraud Watch's blog. If you haven't subscribed, the link is in the description of this episode. Highly recommend it. So it goes right to your inbox, your email inbox if you subscribe on the bottom of the blog. Killer Karen Read retrial updated. What exactly did Thomas Beatty communicate with John O'Keefe to make arrangements to meet with him at the Waterfall bar? So he was supposed to be at the bar that night on the evening of January 28th, 2022. And why didn't he bother to show up? Included in this blog is Erin Beatty. So Jen McCabe was calling Tom. This is Karen Read's fantasy, because Jen knew that Erin Beatty was in contact with Colin just hours earlier. I don't really want to expose Erin, but that is why Jen kept calling over there to find out what the Beattys were aware of. And the O'Keefe McCabes would like to spin a tale that I was hooking up with Tom, who half of Canton thinks is gay. Sorry, Natalie. So this is a text message to Natalie Bernschneider Wiweke, who was the intermediary between Aidan Turtleboy Kearney, the blogger, and Karen Read. So they would talk on an encrypted app, and she would send messages back and forth, because before eventually Karen Read ghosted Natalie for sending her negative information. Karen Read doesn't want to look at any negative information or too much information or whatever. She gave her the discard. And then when these witness harassment claims came about, or accusations against charges against Aidan Kearney, Natalie Bernschneider Wiweke cooperated with the police and handed over her phone, and that's how we know about these messages. So she's saying they would like to spin a tale. So she's not denying that she was hooking up with Tom. She just says they would like to spin a tale. So she's implying that it's a lie, but not denying it directly. So implying it's a lie by using the word tale and spin a tale, but she doesn't deny it after this. You know, other people would say, but it never happened. And the O'Keefe McCabes would like to spin a tale that I was hooking up with Tom, who half of Canton thinks is gay. Sorry, Natalie. And she says, Nat, if you need a break from middleman duties between me and Aidan Kearney, so that's me speaking, please say so. If you need a break from middleman duties, please say so. I can have John Silvera take over and give you reprieve. She says John S. That's her old buddy. There's another one of her flying monkeys, John Silvera. Reality. Karen asked Jen to call Tom in case John had gone to his house at some point. Source, Aidan Turtleboy Kearney, Canton Cover-Up, Part 132. Aidan Turtleboy Kearney appears to have gotten the above information from Karen Read via protected grand jury transcripts. The reason to believe this is because, contrary to Kearney's blog, part headed Canton Cover-Up, Part 132, there is no mention in police report summaries that Karen asked Jen to call Tom in case John had gone to his house at some point, because Karen didn't have Tom's phone number. Police report summaries on Jennifer McCabes interviews. You can read those in the link. Were you trying to protect Tom Beatty because of the rumors? This is the chit-chat on Twitter or X. Were you trying to protect Tom Beatty because of the rumors that Karen hooked up with him, similar to when Karen didn't want the blogger to know she kissed Higgins and was trying to bang him? She was very protective of Brian Higgins in the beginning. So that was C. Pickles. Seek the Truth 40 says who? Tom Beatty, the guy who was banging Karen Read after she killed John O'Keefe? Right, let's believe that. POS. Piece of. Jim Phillips says no one talks about how Beatty was supposed to meet John O'Keefe out that night and never showed and was boozing around the corner from Fairview that night. Beatty and Karen became very tight right after John O'Keefe's death and were seen together on several occasions in a date-like environment. That cracks me up. A date-like environment reminds me of Higgins' testimony. How were you kissed? Not like you kiss a friend. A date-like environment. Scene says, there he is. Dr. Know-It-All, get nothing right. Go away, essay. You keep pivoting on theories. Here's one. Psychotic, enraged, drunk woman runs over ex-boyfriend, orphaning 2 children, and days later is sleeping with his bud, Tom Beatty. Sounds right. Kenny Power says, didn't Tom Beatty claim he was a close friend of John, but banged Karen Read during all of this? Who John O'Keefe's friend, Tom Beatty of Canton, is 100% Turtleboy's source, and so is his spoiled eldest daughter. Tom, along with his daughter, had a verbal confrontation and accused their good friends, uncle and cousin, of murdering police officer O'Keefe about a year ago. The accusations were witnessed by many people whom to this day no longer associate with the Beattys. Tom has been the only person saying from day one that certain people run this town. Remember Turtleboy's first article? It couldn't be further from the truth and completely delusional. Prior to this altercation, Tom had an infatuation with Karen. They began a relationship after his friend John's death. Tom admitted that he was seeing Karen to people. Nice friend, who also became Karen's confidant. Even after Karen was indicted for murder and released on bail, Tom and Karen were seen going on romantic dinners in the North End to recently being seen around Canton. Tom has been a very powerful resource to Karen and her legal team, helping them establish Karen's alibi by implying that 12 plus people are involved with the death, including a dog. Tom's resentment towards Canton families began as soon as his daughter's friends stopped associating with her because of her erroneous accusations about their friends' relatives. His daughter has continued to provide Turtleboy with many photos and videos, including the juvenile video of Colin Colin Albert, that was directly recorded from her cell phone, which turned out to be a silly joke between his friend's hockey team. Remember the Bang Bang video? That was such a joke in trial. Bang Bang. I mean, that had to be one of Distraction Alan Jackson's sleaziest moves, defense moves in trial. He looked like such a oily snake oil salesman, used car salesman. I mean, really, he's just such a disgrace. Such a disgrace to his profession, which, I mean, it's not even hard to disgrace that profession, but him and Unetti and Elizabeth Little and Robert Alessi all take it down so many notches to just sort of like a mafia, organized crime, basically. Karen Read's defense team. Okay, going back, including the juvenile video of Colin that was directly recorded from her cell phone, which turned out to be a silly joke between his friend's hockey team. Advantage, typical teenage nonsense. Tom feels that his daughter has suffered mental health issues and attributes it to the McCabes and Albert families, even though she brought it on herself by being persuaded by her father, not to mention his daughter has bullied and harassed countless girls in the town for many years and is known for her promiscuous reputation that would have nothing to do with her mental health. Tom posts on Facebook to get sympathy for his daughter's actions without explaining the backstory. Tom has a reputation for being Mr. Tough Guy. Don't mess with the dot boy. He continues to approach everyone and anyone whose child has befriended his daughter during sporting events at restaurants and bars, or just leaving threatening voice messages. At one point, Tom said to his accusers that he wanted to forget about the accusations without apologizing for his or his daughter's outrageous actions. But in the meantime, Tom and his daughters continue to ruin lives by telling incredible lies to deflect any responsibility for their absurd accusations. It's amazing to think Aidan, a 40-year-old who lives in his ex-wife's basement, publishes high school teenage gossip for a living. I can see why Aidan and Tom Beatty are buddies. They both live off their ex-wives. That is what this whole conspiracy theory is about. A spoiled, mischievous high school teenage girl who lives for attention and a guy who doesn't want his girlfriend to go to jail and who thinks that certain people run the town and can get away with murder. Sure, in this day and age, absolute garbage. Okay. I'm going to take a quick break. When we get back, more on Erin Beatty and Tom Beatty and their relationship with Karen Read and Aidan Turtleboy Kearney. Don't go anywhere. I will be back in a minute.
Mic check, Roberta strides through the static haze. True crime Gotham where the shadows play their plays. Fraudsters fold when a spotlight beams. Fact-focused queen busting propaganda schemes. Glass shatter lies echoes through the streets. Standing for victims, giving voice their beats. NYC Post, truth sharp as night. Roberta exposing she's the anti-fraud light. Hard cash warrior, dissecting state and defense. Twisted innocence, claims breaking pretense. Gotham's truth seeker cuts clean with the blade. Facts in the forefront, no justice gets swayed. Cold facts drip heavy, real talk unfurls. Cracking cases open like oysters with pearls. Innocence gimmicks crumble to dust in the wind. For victims, her creed, justice till the end. listen. She drops heavy artillery, narratives twisted, meet blunt object civility. Roberta got receipts that unravel the ploy, exposing the lies these fraudsters deploy. Glass shatters lies, echoes through the streets, standing for victims, giving voice their beats. NYC Pulse, true sharp as night. Roberta exposing she's the anti-fraud light.
Okay, we are back. I want to thank Mashid Abzuza Salad for buying me a couple cups of coffee. Cinderella, Tammy Shepard, Barb, Tammy Shepard again. Thank you so much for supporting. These streams are supported by you. Hold on one second. Also, let me pull up. Want to thank Jen Kershaw, Marcie Denton, Diane Brooks, Tammy Shepard, Carol Holderman, Marie Horton for shooting me a Venmo, the best bang for your buck, for supporting this channel. Thank you so much. Okay, let us get back into it. January 28th, 2022, Canton High School basketball game. Erin Beatty, the oldest daughter of Tom Beatty, played basketball for Canton High School, known as the Canton Bulldogs. At 6:30 on the evening of January 28th, there was a basketball game at Canton High School. Nicholas Kolakithis testified during Karen Reed's first 2024 trial for her murder of Boston police officer John O'Keefe that his daughter, who was also playing on the team that evening, and he also testified that Tom Beatty was at the game. But when Nicholas's wife, Karina Kolakithis, testified, she chose to admit Tom Beatty's name. Why? And why did Karina Kolakithis choose to use the words lovey-dovey during her 2024 testimony? Was it because she had colluded with Karen Reed prior to her testifying, either directly or indirectly? And was she already aware of John O'Keefe's message to Karen, in which he had stated, "Sick of always arguing and fighting. It's been weekly for several months now. So yeah, I'm not as quick to jump back into being lovey-dovey as you, apparently." Witness Matthew and Jennifer McCabe also attended the game, as one of their daughters also played for Canton High School. The Canton Bulldogs played against Foxborough Warriors and lost. The Bulldogs lost to Foxborough 79-73 in overtime after battling back from a 50-39 deficit in the fourth quarter. The Canton Sports Pub was literally a couple of minutes away from 34 Fairview Road, either while at the basketball game or possibly prior to the game. While in the Canton Junction Sports Pub, Matthew McCabe had communicated with Tom Beatty, who had mentioned he was going to meet up with John at the Waterfall as well. But when exactly did Tom Beatty communicate with John O'Keefe to arrange to meet up with him at the Waterfall bar? And why didn't Tom bother to show up? Tom Beatty apparently ended up drinking, quote, a few houses down from the Alberts that night, unquote. Why then hasn't Tom Beatty ever been a suspect for Karen Read and her lying lawyers? There are further rumors that Tom Beatty became mad, quote unquote, at Jennifer McCabe at some point after Karen Read killed John O'Keefe because Tom thought Jennifer had complained to the school about his daughter, quote unquote, which did not happen. Tom and or Erin Beatty or both went on to lie about Colin Albert and falsely accuse him of calling Erin Beatty at 12:31 a.m. on January 29, 2022, then changed the time to 12:33 a.m. Like, right, isn't this curious? Right at the time that this is right at the time that Karen hit John O'Keefe. It's like 12:30, it's between 12:31, 12:30, 12:31, 32. Because they said, or a minute after, because they said Colin was looking for a ride home. When in reality, Erin Beatty did not have a driver's license in January 2022. Group texts between 5 families, one being Tom Beatty. And why has Tom Beatty chosen to hide the basketball group text messages from January 28, 2022? Innocence Fraud Watch asks. Witnesses like Karina Kolakithis told the first 2024 jury, referring to the Canton Junction Sports Club, we got a text saying some parents from the varsity team were going to be meeting up there, so I thought it would be a good idea to stop by and grab something to eat before the game. Karina's husband, Nicholas Kolakithis, stated on the basketball game, there was a group of about 5 parents or so, including us. We generally sat together most of the games. But when Nicholas Kolakithis was asked by prosecutor Adam Lally, who specifically directed him to go to the Waterfall bar, he appeared shifty. This is really, we're going to watch it in a second, but you can see his whole rhythm of his language changes, and avoided answering the question, as Adam Lally would no doubt have recognized. The following is a partial transcript of Nicholas Kolakithis' testimony. Adam Lally asks, where did you decide to go? Nicholas Kolakithis says, went to the Waterfall. Adam Lally asks, is that somewhere that you had been before? Nicholas, yes. Adam Lally, now with regard to the Waterfall, as far as the other parents were concerned, what, if any, other parents from the ones that you described, as far as the ones you sit with at the games, who, if anyone else, went? Nicholas, Jennifer and Matt McCabe. Adam Lally. And what and how was that communicated to you as far as in person, via text, phone? How did you come to the Waterfall? Nicholas Kolakithis says it was via text. Adam Lally goes on to ask, so you get a text from who specifically directed you to sort of go to the Waterfall? Nicholas, so it was a group text amongst the 5 set of families, and different ideas were bantered about in a group text, and I decided to go to the Waterfall. Why did Nicholas Kolakithis avoid answering Adam Lally's question? Was it because the person who had directed him to the Waterfall was Innocence fraudster Tom Beatty? So here, because this was such a difficult trial, and it's going to be a difficult trial starting Tuesday, thanks to Karen Read and her herd of lying, fraudulent criminal lawyers who demanded that it's going to be hard to listen to. The sound is terrible in that room. So I just made a video copy of this also so you didn't have to sit through the ads. 1 minute. Hold on, I might need to pull this. Hold on 1 second. This is not letting me pull up a video. Let me try again. Okay, here we go. Pay dirt.
Evening of January 28th, 2022. Recall that day?
Yes, I do.
Were you working that day?
I was.
Were you working in the office or remotely? Or?
So he's a lawyer, Nicholas Kolakithis. And listen to how his attitude, voice patterns change when he's asked who sent him to the waterfall.
We were hybrid. I was working remote that day.
Now, as far as that evening was concerned, what, if anything, were the plans, and sort of what did you do that evening?
Sure. My older daughter was on the Canton High basketball team. So we were planning to go, I was planning to go to the basketball game, and I did go to the basketball game, yes.
And where was the basketball game, do you recall?
Canton High School.
And your daughter at that point, which team did she play?
She was coming off an injury, and she was playing for both the JV and the varsity team.
So she was sort of swinging between JV and varsity?
Correct.
And so what time were each of the games that evening?
God, I think the JV was around 5 or so, and the varsity 6:30, 6:45.
And do you recall who they were playing?
Foxborough High.
And when you arrived to the game, as far as where is it that you typically sit when you go to a basketball game again?
There was a group of 5 parents or so, including us. We generally sat together most of the games.
And who, if anyone else, was among those parents that you sat with?
Specifically,
yes.
Names, the McCabes, the...
Allie is saying I can't. Allie 90-21-1 says, I can't stand this guy. Bossy Texas chick is saying, ask Allie why he seemed nice. And Allie said he's fake. I don't know, something weird. I just felt like they scripted their testimony to please Karen Read. They were lovey-dovey. They seemed to be totally beholden to Karen Read and not candid or forthright. Everything seemed to be about protecting Karen Read and keeping her from prison. And Karina Kolakithis is not on the witness list this time around. I don't think either one of them are. They were horrible witnesses. They were basically like defense witnesses.
Fitzgerald's, Galleries, and Tom Beatty.
And these are people you know as sort of parents of other children that are on the team?
Yes.
And as far as that particular, is that who you sat with on this occasion, if you recall?
I believe so.
And your wife, did she come to one or both games?
She came to the second game, the varsity game.
And about what time did that game get over?
The varsity game?
Yes.
It went into overtime. It was a back and forth game. Later than usual. I don't remember the exact time.
1?
We lost. Foxborough won.
Now, following that, following the basketball game, where did you go?
As usual, we waited for our players to come out, our daughters to come out. and they're the same group of parents were deciding if we should continue, go out somewhere, get something to eat.
These water bottles are really used like a security blanket. So it's getting sort of like closer and closer to the questions he really doesn't want to answer. You know, there used to be a time, I've said this before on my show, when people used to give whole speeches without water. We didn't have bottled water. Water wasn't this necessary thing. I get it, it's good to stay hydrated. But people could testify. Look at old trials. There's not a water bottle in sight. They testified for hours on it without their mouth getting dry.
Hungry. Anybody who knows me doesn't get between me and my food, so I was very hungry, so wanted to get something to eat.
And where did you decide to go?
Went to the Waterfall.
Is that somewhere that you had been before?
Yes.
Now, with regard to the Waterfall, as far as the other parents were concerned, what, if any, other parents from the ones that you described, as far as the ones you sit with at the game, who, if anyone else went?
Jennifer and Matt McCabe.
And how was that communicated to you as far as in person, via text, or phone, or how did you come to the Waterfall?
It was via text.
And so you get a text from who specifically directing you to sort of go to the Waterfall?
So it was a group text amongst the 5 sets of families, and different ideas were bantered about in the group text, and I decided to go to Waterfall.
And when you get to the Waterfall, being familiar with the establishment, where is it that you parked in reference to the Waterfall?
I parked behind Washington Street. There's a small little parking lot. Waterfall shares a parking lot with other establishments and I believe condos, so I parked in the back.
And about what time did you get there?
I got there right around 9-ish, a little bit before 9 o'clock.
If I could turn your attention to January 28th and January 29th, 2022.
I do.
And,
This is his wife, Karina Kolokithis. They should ask Karina what Karen talked about. She was trashing John and his mother. Right. Was she the one, Larry, that she said this to the grand jury, but she didn't bring it up in this trial? Larry P. says, Nick is another lying lawyer. I agree with you. He knows that Karen killed him. Sad he knew John too. His daughters were friends. Terrible. Am I thinking of someone else? You changed their testimony. Yes, she said it to the grand jury. Okay, thank you. So she says it to the grand jury that Karen Read was trashing John and his mother. And I always felt that John's mother picked up on Karen Read's psychopathy and did not like Karen Read. That's my take of the way I've pulled in information. Subtle and not so subtle. Mother knows. But by the time she got to this trial, she's talking about John and Karen being lovey-dovey, which comes right from their text messages. Odd expression. How many times have you used that expression, lovey-dovey? I would say seldom to never. But, this was something that was a pattern with all the witnesses. Everyone loved Karen, thought she was great. It was like they were trying to appease the free Karen Read crowd. Nobody had any idea. Nobody had a hint. When John's telling people in Aruba that Karen's crazy, no one had a bit sense that Karen Read could be dangerous. I just don't believe that. Karen was talking badly about John and the kids and even said stuff about John's mother. Karina talked to everyone about it, except on the stand in trial when it mattered. Right, Larry? Here, hold on, let me put up here. Karen was talking badly about John and the kids and even said stuff about John's mother. Karina talked to everyone about it. You know, you don't hear everything at a trial. You hear, very curated bits of evidence. And now it's getting, as retrials are, they get curated down. So we might never know really the whole story. Are we going to hear about the plumber this time round? The plumber that Karen Read was waiting for. She couldn't come out to the bar. She was waiting for her plumber on a Friday night to come back from Home Depot. He's going to go to Home Depot and be back mañana. He's going to fix her hot water issues. John O'Keefe told Michael Camerano that he was annoyed with Karen Read because she didn't ask him to fix her hot water issues when he would have done it with his father as a plumber for free on Monday. He knew it was did he know it was a made up phony story? Or is there a real Richie the plumber somewhere around? Is this going to come into trial? The text messages came in, but were never read out loud in trial. So they came into evidence. Is Hank Brennan going to bring up Richie the plumber? Let me get I'll get a poll going. Will Richie the plumber come into Karen Read's retrial? Plumber. I could call it Richie the plumber story or tale or whatever you want to call it. Story, tall tale. Yes, no. And there's no option for don't know because none of us know. So there we go.
Call what day of the week though?
It was a Friday and a Saturday.
And specific to the Friday, did you work that day?
I did work that day.
And after you left work, where did you go?
I went to the Canton Junction.
Why did you go?
We got a text saying some parents from the varsity team were going to be meeting up there. So I thought it'd be a good idea to go and stop by and grab something to eat before the game.
And when you say varsity team, which sport?
It's basketball.
Was that your older daughter or younger daughter that was on that?
My older daughter played on that team.
And so at some point there was a game for the varsity girls basketball team?
That's correct.
And where was that game that night?
At Canton High.
And do you recall who they played?
They played Foxborough.
And do you recall when the game was?
You mean time?
Yes.
6:30.
And so you mentioned that you went to the Canton Junction for about an hour. So about what time did you get to the Canton?
I believe I got there around 6. I'm not sure.
And following the Canton Junction, where did you go?
Went to Canton High to watch my daughter play.
And within sort of the stands at a Canton High varsity basketball game, were there certain people that you would typically sort of sit with when you watch the game?
We just sit with whoever we knew. Usually it was the parents of the girls that played on the varsity team.
And who were some of those parents?
Some of them were the McCabes, the Fitzgeralds, people like that.
And the McCabes, what are their names?
Jennifer and Matt McCabe.
How long had you and your family known them?
I think we've known them for about 9 years or so.
Did they have a...
So I'm sorry I had to turn on my air conditioning. It's super hot in here. So it sounds like I'm in a tunnel or blizzard. I try to keep it off as much as I can, but... Larry P. says Nick was seen going up to Turtleboy and shaking his hand after court. Talk about corrupt. No butt slap. Disgusting Manny. Thanks so much. Roberta, we all know it was Chloe who used Jen's phone to Google Haas log with her paws. It was her paw print. She left no dog DNA. They didn't test the phone. Don't give them any ideas, Manny. Who used Jen's phone to Google how long she's the only one with motive and bit John O'Keefe allegedly bake the bread. Q. Okay, I don't know what that means, but crazy.
Excuse me, a daughter on the team as well.
They did.
And so you arrived to the game. As far as your husband was concerned, did you observe him there?
He was there already.
Where did you go to sit?
I went in I don't exactly remember where I went to sit in the vicinity of my husband and those parents.
And following that game, where did you go?
So after the game, we went, usually at the end of the game, you'd go down, talk to the players, congratulate them. And then I told everybody I was going home.
And did you in fact go home?
I did go home.
And after you arrived home, what, if anything, happened?
I started getting text messages from my husband, and he said that some of the parents were going to go to grab something to eat, and I should go.
And what, if any, hesitation did you have?
I was tired. I worked all day. Pretty much I was done. So I had already almost started changing out of my clothes, and I said I wasn't going to go.
And eventually, did you decide to go?
My kids told me to go. They did. They actually, they said to me, you never go out. You don't do anything. Dad's by himself. You should go and just keep him company while he eats dinner. So that's what I did.
So based on that, you decided to go?
I did, reluctantly. Sorry.
Larry P. says, I don't think they played. None of her testimony, this rings true to me, but okay. I don't think they played pick plumber will come. I don't think the plumber will come in because there is no plumber. But is her made-up plumber tale coming in? It's significant. She couldn't come out. She's delaying. It's punishment. I mean, to me, it shows Karen Read's behavior, and Karen Read's behavior is key in this story, in this crime story. I wish it were a story. Crime. How are we doing? I'm in the minority. I'm hoping against hope. I'm living on a prayer, according to you guys. You say no. 70% says no. Why? Because it wasn't in Gretchen Voss's story. I mean, that's like the Karen Read story we've all heard. It's Gretchen Voss story from the first article. Really molded the narrative. Yes, 30% are living on a prayer with me. They're my people. 30% we're living on a prayer. May not be true. I hope it does come in. I think Karen Read's behavior is really key in this. 2971 now. I hope so. I hope Hank Brennan understands the psychology of Karen Read and understands that this was a coercively controlling relationship. This was an abusive relationship and the cycle of abuse. I hope he talks about that. Doesn't look like it, though. I mean, you know, it would be great to have an expert explain this. It's these patterns, but
reluctantly I went, yes.
And where is it that you?
So that's when I went to CF. I'm sorry, I went to the Waterfall. Sorry, a little nervous.
And is the Waterfall, is that somewhere you would?
I had been to the Waterfall before.
And where is that located in the town?
It's on.
Wait, didn't she just say she never goes out? Yet she's been to the Waterfall before? Does she never go out, or has she been to the Waterfall before? It's like 80 something degrees in this room. Dean, it's 70 degrees with no humidity. Where are you, Dean? It's so hot here. It went up to in the mid 80s today here.
In Washington Street in Canton.
And so obviously your husband was already there. You took the cars, is that correct?
That is correct.
And about what time is it that you got?
I believe I got to the Waterfall.
Today, it was in the text messages between Tay's asking what plumber came came in via text messages, or was there a call? It was the text messages. And then there's other testimony. So by the time, so the grand jury is like closer to the event and before the Innocence fraud campaign, and everyone edited their testimony. But told his friend, Michael Camerano, that he was annoyed with Karen, and they go back and forth. You have a plumber coming over, what, it was like 7:30 at night on a Friday night. Seems unlikely. Like, he's calling her out on her lies. Like, you didn't answer my calls. You wouldn't engage with me all day. Well, I'm going to make you wait for me. Just, you're going to have to wait for my appearance. And I'm alone with another guy. Doing something that you could have fixed for free. I'm hiring someone. You're useless to me. Just BS, mind games, control games.
Around 9:30 at night.
And where did you park your car in relation to
So I actually found parking right on Washington Street, and I was across the street from the Waterfall.
Starting with Friday, January 28th, do you recall what was going on that night?
Well, first, I set up at my house for a team dinner for my daughter's hockey team. Then I met up with some parents for my daughter played for the Canton High basketball team. So we met up with some parents before. We had a drink, appetizers. My younger two were with us. We fed them dinner. And then we went on to Canton High School to the basketball game.
Now, starting back, the oldest daughter with the hockey dinner at your house, that was your daughter, Allie, is that correct?
Yes.
She's your oldest?
Yes.
Now, the daughter who had the basketball game, is that your second oldest?
Yes.
And with regard to her, she was on varsity team, is that right?
Yes.
For Canton High School?
Yes.
And with respect to just basketball in general, when the kids were younger, what, if any, role did you have in regard to that? Jeri?
I'll allow it, but then you'll move on quickly.
I was the basketball coach for the rec, or the town program.
As you're going.
Right. So isn't that curious that the defense was objecting to her mentioning that she was a basketball coach? It's not a good look if you're trying to pin third-party culprit on her and pin motive on her. The girls' basketball coach is a real killer. I mean, obviously it's possible, but certainly, the defense wanted that out. I'm the girls' basketball coach, and I'm a murderer on the off time. And then I like to look up how long it takes for my victim to die. I mean, come on. Yeah, awful what they've done to Jennifer McCabe. Horrible. Awful. The way Jennifer McCabe has been treated is, we saw it. If there was any common sense, and without the Innocence fraud campaign, Karen Read would have been treated like JLR everywhere she went. How does it feel to be a cop killer? We used to not like cop killers in our society. But now, after a long campaign by our media and a long battle against the police, punishing the police by the wrongful conviction movement, helped along with our media, it's okay to kill police officers now, as long as you blame other police officers, because they're all doing something nefarious and awful secretly. But it was either she be treated like that or Jen McCabe. And Karen Read will not be treated badly. She has to be treated like a queen. So Jen McCabe and other innocent people have to go down for her crime. Right out of the mouth of Karen Read. That is coming in. That is coming in. Brendan would be an idiot not to bring that in. But it depends if Turtleboy and her Innocence fraud campaign is going to come in.
through that sort of process, what
So then earlier in the night, there was another individual who we had been in contact with, or my husband had been talking to, and he had mentioned that he was gonna meet up with John at Waterfall as well, but he never ended up coming. I knew he was at a house close to Fairview. So I thought, well, maybe if they got into a fight, like John might have texted this individual and maybe he just ended up on his couch.
who was that individual?
Tom Beatty.
And who is Tom Beatty in relation to, how did you know?
He has two daughters that are the same age as my daughters.
One of those daughters, at least around the same age as Kaylee.
Yes.
And so, based on sort of that process, thought process, and what you're doing, what did you do?
So then I start calling Tom.
And at any point in time, did you call Tom? Did Tom pick up the phone? Did you speak with him?
He did not.
And so, following that, what did you do?
So I know at some point I was starting to call John. My husband was as well. At that point, I get up and I'm like, okay, well, got to go out and look for him. And in my head, I was thinking I'll drive over to Tom's and maybe he's there. I then go downstairs. Matt gets up. He's starting to get dressed. I go downstairs. I make a coffee. And I'm not sure how much time passed, but then all of a sudden I hear screaming out front.
Now, if I could just take it back for a second, as far as a decade or so that you had known and been friends with John O'Keefe, with his either his niece or his nephew or both home, is him not coming home? Is that something that had ever happened before? You were ever aware of before?
I was never.
Ask it to him.
Had John ever gone out at night and then not come home and kids?
I'm going to allow it.
Not to my knowledge, no.
Okay, I left out Matthew McCabe's testimony. Hold on one second. Get into it.
Met some friends at a restaurant in Canton before my daughter's basketball game.
And so on that evening, your daughter had a basketball game, is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
And who did she play for at that time?
She played for Canton High School.
Is that the varsity game?
Yes.
And which of your daughters, as far as age is concerned, which of your daughters was playing basketball for Canton High School at that time?
That would be my second oldest, my second oldest.
And so you, after work, had met some other people at an establishment in Canton, is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Where did you go?
The establishment was called the Canton Junction Pub or Canton Junction. I don't know the full name, but it just went by the Junction.
And who, if anyone, did you meet just in general?
Handful of folks that played whose daughters played basketball on the same team with my daughter.
So just sort of a group of parents who had kids on the basketball team?
Yes, that's correct.
And was your wife Jennifer there with you at that time as well?
Yes, that's correct.
And about how long were you at the Junction?
Game 6:30. Give or take hour and a half.
And girls varsity basketball, was there sort of like a typical time that the game would start or game would be scheduled for them?
Yes.
And what time is that?
Typically 6 or 6:30 would be the normal time. I don't remember if it was a 6:30 start that night or actually I think it was a 6:30 start, but typically 6 or 6:30.
So sometime around 6 or 6:30, you make your way over to the high school, is that correct?
That is correct.
And in that, I mean, was this a home game, a road game, if you recall?
That evening, it was a home game.
Do you recall anything about the game as far as who they were playing or who won or anything like that?
Yes, it was. They were playing the town of Foxborough High School, and they did not win. They went into overtime and lost.
Okay. All right. So that is, where are we at? We are at 28. Oh, even less. 28% say Richie the plumber will come in. 72% say no. Apparently what's coming in is, I've heard, don't know if it's true, that there's evidence of Karen Read's possible other flirtations, relationships that she had, not after she backed her SUV into John O'Keefe, leaving him to die in a blizzard, but before, when she was dating John O'Keefe. I heard that was coming in. Karen Read's own statements. Very curious to see Tuesday opening statements. Alan Jackson for the defense, but more than distraction, Jackson, the lying lawyer, the favorite lawyer of sexual predators and killers. Maybe we'll go over some of his history soon. I'm really anxious to hear Hank Brennan and what he talks about in the opening statement. Looks like all the car data would come in with I would think he would show the car data and how it, or at least talk about it. I mean, that seems to me end of story, end of game. The defense, you look at the defense and you just look at their posture, body language, overall attitude. And I'm not talking about minute details of body. I'm just talking about observing as a human being, using your eyes. They seem to know that they have an uphill battle. Free Karen Read is dwindling. I mean, just look at the amount of people that were there. We'll see who was there at this time at the courthouse at the trial, but I don't think it's going to be the giant group that we saw last time. So their ARCA witnesses have been exposed. They've been exposed. Is Judge Kearney going to be tougher? She's been a tiny touch tougher, not enough on Alan Jackson. What is she going to let go on in her courtroom? She seems determined to make sure that Karen Read is convicted, gets off, acquitted, or gets convicted of very little. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. Like I would say, if you want to kill someone, Massachusetts is a good place to go. This area seems like. Thanks so much for listening. I'll be back tomorrow at 6 p.m. It's going to be a funny week for me. So in the midweek, I'm traveling, but I'll also be streaming. I plan on streaming the trial. So come here and watch. And then doing a night show at 6. So it will be, for the next 8 weeks, it's going to be a lot of Karen Read. So watch with me. Thanks so much for listening tonight. Please hit the like button on your way out. Subscribe to the channel. Share this episode. I need your help to getting the word out about Innocence fraud. Do not have a PR person. Do not have a team. I'm just me. Everything you see on this channel, I did it. Support the channel. Send me buy me a coffee. Throw me a Venmo donation to the channel via Venmo. Or become a Patreon member and get access to exclusive content you won't get anywhere else. I'll see you all tomorrow at 6. Have a great night, everybody.
I hit my boyfriend with my car. It wasn't an accident. But with lying lawyers, I'll go far. Lying lawyers and witness harassment, I'll avoid prison. It was snowing. campaign is my biggest hit yet. Yeah. I hit my boyfriend with my car. It wasn't an accident. But with lying lawyers, I'll go far. Lying lawyers and witness harassment, I'll avoid prison. It was snowing. I pushed the pedal down, hit him hard. Now the legal system, my clown. Innocence fraud campaign to save my skin, making money. Truth is my second victim. Carry, Jen. Like John, you were my mark. My innocence fraud campaign is my biggest hit yet. Making